Okay. Now the national income chapter, the calculation part, is in the CBSE curriculum, and it is the most important and the most scoring part of the curriculum in economics, because majority of the chapters are theory based, which is having some theory and some numerical. But when we are talking about the national income in the macro part, it is fully, this calculation part is fully arithmetical, where we need to have some formula, and this is very scoring. So I suggest all my students, if you want to save your time, because in calculation the time usually taken is much lesser than other making graph and other things. Okay, like in income and employment, aggregate demand and aggregate supply. So there we need to make a graph and then we have to justify the graph, so that is time consuming. Here this chapter, the calculation of national income, will give us a good time okay. Now we are going to start with the product method or the value added method. Now this is the first method. The second method what we have to follow is the income method. Okay, and the last method which we need to follow is the expenditure method. Now that I'll also give you one more condition, that all this method is having some importance to find something. Okay, now before moving into this part, I will tell you regarding the gross domestic product, GDP, which can be at MP, or GDP gross domestic product at factor cost, FC. MP means market price. Now whenever we are talking about the GDP, we have to understand what is the meaning of GDP. Now as the name is suggesting, gross domestic product. Now what is the importance of GDP? Because all this method, whatever we are following, be it product method or value added method, income method or expenditure method, somewhere or the other the GDP will be touched. Okay, in case of product method, in case of product and value added method, we get the directly the GDP or GVA, gross value added. Okay, we get that. But in case of expenditure method, we can either get gross domestic product or net domestic product, anything we can get. But whatever we get, we need to have the GDP at the first instance. Okay, so that is why the GDP is very important in the expenditure method. And in the income method, we will always get NDP at FC, factor cost. Okay, this we are going to get. Here we can get GDP at FC, GDP at MP, and NDP at MP. These two we can get. Okay, and here in case the product method, we will always get GDP at MP. Okay, or GVA, gross value added. Okay, these are the detailed thing. I'll touch that in the next part. For the time being, first we have to understand what is the meaning of GDP, gross domestic product. Now because this is a demo video, so here I'll have to rush a little bit. Okay, many a times there can be part where it will be too fast I am going. Okay, but that is not the intention of teaching, because in the classroom when I am teaching, I usually go slow as per the pace of the class. Okay, that is one thing which I told you. Okay, now GDP, gross domestic product. Now what is the meaning of gross domestic product? First of all, we will calculate, or what is the definition of GDP, gross domestic product. Now as per the popular definition, gross domestic product is all the product, that means that is goods and service produced within the domestic territory. Now this is very important. Within the domestic territory, this is the key word, domestic territory, during one financial year. Okay, during one financial year. Now financial year usually starts from 1st of April till 31st of March. Okay, now what is the meaning of domestic territory? What is the meaning of domestic territory? Now I'll explain what is the meaning of domestic territory. Now goods and service, they both are considered under the product. Goods are tangible, service are intangible. Okay, now suppose this is India and this is the USA embassy in India. Okay, and this is USA and this is Indian embassy in USA. Okay, this is India, this is USA embassy in India, this is USA, this is Indian embassy in USA. Okay, as per the definition, what is the meaning of domestic territory? Domestic territory means the geographical boundary of a country excluding the area of foreign embassy. In our consideration, it is USA. Foreign embassy in the home country is India, and adding the area of home country embassy in foreign country. So what does it mean? That this is India, this is our domestic territory, this is our territory, excluding the area of USA, that means the area of embassy, and plus the area of Indian embassy in USA. So the GDP, that means all the factors of production or all the goods and service produced inside this area will be considered as the GDP of India, plus this area will be considered as the GDP of India, excluding this. Okay, so technically the area of Indian embassy in USA, it should be added with the GDP of India, and the area of USA embassy should be added to USA. So it becomes the GDP here for India becomes all the shaded area minus the non-shaded area. Now this is the very important concept of the GDP formation. Okay, so we have understood the first concept of the GDP. Now from the GDP, what we have to do, if we want to take out the GNP, gross national product. Now here the concept of citizenship and the residentship comes in. Now gross national product, how the formula is derived? Suppose GNP is equal to GDP. Now it is irrelevant regarding the factor cost or the market price. I am not taking that into consideration, but afterward I will take. What is happening here? GNP is equal to GDP plus gross domestic product plus net factor income from abroad, NFIA. Now NFIA can be net factor payment to abroad, okay, and it can also have net factor income from abroad. Okay, now it means that whenever the person, suppose here living in USA but he is Indian person, if he is sending some goods or some value, if the person living in USA who is of Indian origin or who is Indian is sending some money in India, it should be taken as net factor income from abroad. But at the same time, if some person of USA is sitting in India and sending the money to USA, sending the money in the USA, you see the arrow is very important. Sending the money to USA, it becomes NFPA, that means net factor payment to abroad. So both are important. So NFIA can be positive or can be negative depending upon the inflow and outflow of the factor payment. Okay, so I hope till here it is clear. Okay, so in this part of the video I will only introduce these two concepts of GDP and GNP, and because this is like the demo, so I'll just tell you what to do afterward. Okay, but for the time being we can understand that I'll give you one diamond structure formula: GDP at MP. This formula, this step, if you understand, then you will be easily understanding what to do. If from GDP at MP we subtract the depreciation, we will reach to NDP at MP. Okay, net domestic price for market price. Okay, suppose we subtract the NIT, net indirect tax. Now NIT is equal to tax minus subsidy. Okay, tax minus subsidy. Now this is indirect tax, I'll explain later what to do. So GDP at MP minus NIT, net indirect tax. So what we are getting over here is, we will write it GDP at FC, factor cost. Okay, because NIT is subtracted. Now one more branch can come out, and here if we write plus NFIA, that means adjustment of net factor income from abroad. It can be plus minus both depending upon the condition. So what we are getting? We are getting gross national product at market price. Now with this chain, if we further add or subtract NFIA in this NDP at MP, so what we are left with, we will be getting NNP at MP, and from here if we add again plus minus NFIA, we are getting GNP at FC. And suppose if here we are subtracting the depreciation, we are getting NNP at MP. So they both are the same. Or else what we can do, if suppose we are subtracting the NIT, let us subtract NIT, then it will be three different things. So here we are getting GNP at FC. Okay, GNP at FC we are getting. Everything will come to one common factor, which is the national income, NNP at FC or national income. That is the final goal. How? Here what we have to subtract, here we will subtract minus NIT. If we subtract NIT, we will get NNPFC, and from here if we subtract the depreciation, we will get NNPFC, and from here if we again subtract the depreciation, we will get NNPFC. Okay, so basically our concern is to get NI. Now with this diamond structure, anywhere if you land, from here to here, if you want to go, you will just subtract it. From here to here you want to go, you follow the instruction. Okay, just do the reverse and follow the instruction, everything will be fine. So this was the condition of the national income.